everyone, I'd like to give you a warm welcome back to the garden. I am back here after having some adventures for a couple of weeks in Australia, and I had such a great time. I have a few little shorts and a few little videos that I took while I was there that I'll probably release over time, but I wanted to get right back into what's going on in the garden because we are at a transition right now between summer and fall, and it's already hard enough in southern Arizona to know what to plant and when. We have such unique seasons compared with other regions in the country and in the world that it is sometimes really hard to keep track of when you're supposed to be doing and planting different things at different times of year. So I just wanted to jump right back into it, give you kind of a little bit of a tour and an update on what's going on in the garden, but mainly to focus on what jobs I'm doing and what I'm planting right now in the garden. We're at mid-September, so hopefully it'll help keep you on track and also help me get a plan ready going forward into the fall season. I have to admit that I get as excited about the transition in seasons in the garden as kids do maybe on Christmas Eve, because there are so many possibilities. There are so many different varieties to try and new techniques to experiment with, and so I am as excited as ever to get started with this fall season. So let's go see what's going on in the garden and the jobs that I'm doing right now. I normally don't film at this time of day. It is midday. I usually shoot for mornings or evenings because the light is so much better. It is so bright and so hot in midday here in Arizona that it's just really hard to film. But I wanted to get right back into it and just get on a regular posting schedule again after being away for a couple of weeks. So we're just going to see how this goes. We've got a lot of passing clouds today. I'm hoping that we get a monsoon shower if we're lucky, although it has been teasing a lot but not giving us a lot of rain, so we'll see. But anyway, we're gonna kind of film in between cloud cover and see how this goes. Behind me is the big triangular shaped bed that I grew garlic in last fall, and then I transitioned over to corn and okra and some sunflowers later on in the season once it warmed up. But that is all done, so I am going to be clearing this bed out. So after I get back from a trip, sometimes I feel a little bit overwhelmed as what to do because everything needs to be done all at once, especially when I have a change out that needs to happen between seasons like I do right now. So what I'm doing is just prioritizing the jobs that need to be done right away versus the ones that I can push back for a couple of weeks. So this bed is a priority, and that's because garlic planting season is almost here. It should begin in October, so mark your calendars for that if you haven't already. Keen Garlic Farm, which is the company that I normally order my garlic from, sent me a really wonderful message saying that they were going to be sending me a box of garlic that I could plant this fall. So I'm excited to see what varieties they have chosen for me to try out this year. And so knowing that that is coming right around the corner, I want to make sure I get this bed prepped and ready to go. So I'm going to be clearing it out today. And by clearing, I mean I'm going to be chopping everything at the root, but I'm leaving the roots in place. And that is because it is better for the soil biology and the soil structure to do that. So as those roots remain in the soil and break down over time, they will leave channels where they used to be as they decompose, and that will help with better water penetration and just soil structure overall. And it also disturbs the soil biology, all the little fungi and bacteria that we need in our soil. Those will form little connected tendrils over time. And when we till and we chop into our soil, we break those connections, and so then they have to start all over again. So rather than till my soil and rip out roots, I'm going to try to leave all of that undisturbed because it will benefit me and the plants in the end, and I will just chop everything off at the soil line. Once I get all of the plants cleared, I'm going to take my organic compost that I have on hand, both mine and some that I purchased from Tank's Green Stuff in Tucson, and I'm going to put a couple of inches of compost on this bed so that way I I'm restoring any nutrition that was absorbed and used by the plants between last year and now. Garlic is a really hungry plant. It uses a lot of nitrogen throughout its development, and so I will probably also sprinkle on a little bit of organic blood meal to give a little nitrogen boost to the soil. So then once I get the compost on and then a little bit of that blood meal on, I will just take my rake and kind of rake it out, and then I will water it really well. Speaking of water, if you're going to leave your beds empty for a time, don't turn off the water. And that's because all of that important soil biology that our plants count on and that we count on to be able to harvest great vegetables from our gardens need moisture just like we do. So if you cut off the water, those organisms are going to die off. And so you don't want to have to start over or to try to take the time to then reestablish those populations later. So make sure that you keep the moisture in the soil. It's also really hard to rehydrate soil once it's gotten completely dried out. It tends to get a little hydrophobic, and that just means that it repels the water instead of absorbing it. So I don't know if you've ever had a really old pot that has old soil in it, and then you try to water it and the water just kind of beads up and rolls off. Well, that is because the soil has dried out so much that it's become hydrophobic and it doesn't want to absorb that water as readily. So I don't want that happening in my garden beds. So I am going to clear out all of these plants, top it with compost and organic blood meal, and then water it really well. And then I will just water it on a regular irrigation schedule along with my other plants. It will only be 2 or 3 weeks before I start planting garlic in this bed. So watering it for a couple of weeks is not going to make a whole lot of difference, especially since I only water twice a week in my garden anyway. I've got so many dried flower plants that were left here because I just did not have time over the summer to get these cleared out. The edges of this bed still have the remains of the flowering plants that I had. They have long since dried up and died, but it's the Orlea and the Scabiosa and the Calendula and all of that I had growing along the sides. And I collected so much seed. I still did not get all of the seed collected, so I bet I'm going to have a lot of volunteer flowers, but there is nothing wrong with that. We need more flowers. Speaking of flowers, I am in the process of putting some seeds up on my website for sale from my garden. These will be calendula, pincushion flower or scabiosa, some orlea, and maybe a little bit of nigella if I can get it all collected in time. Oh, and also sunflowers, because we all need more sunnies in our life. And so these will be just a garden mix. So I've got a variety of colors. They will be just variety packs. And so I am getting all of the photos taken and the listings put up so that I can publish them hopefully next week. So stay tuned on that. I will put out an email when those go live so that you know when they are available for purchase if you're interested in having any of those seeds that were grown here in southern Arizona in my garden. All right, so let's take a quick spin around the garden. I am going to show you the disaster that it is in right now. It has been such a weird summer for me. I started the beginning of May with having surgery, and it took me 7 weeks to recover from that, which was not what I anticipated. It was about twice the amount of time. And then after that, my mother was doing poorly, so I spent a couple of weeks in Ohio. I came home for a week, and then she passed away, so I had to go back and settle some things and get her memorial service taken care of. So I was there for an additional week, and then came home for a week, and then I was off to Australia for 2 weeks. So this garden has definitely been neglected this summer. It has still been pretty prolific and productive, honestly, much more so than I thought that it would be. Automatic timers and irrigation systems are a godsend, especially here in the desert when we cannot rely on rain to fall to water our gardens regularly. So I've had a lot of flowers and a lot of tomatoes and peppers and okra and zucchini and things like that, but then there were a few other things that just did not do very well because the gardener was absent. So I've had a lot of weeds growing up in the beds. This Bermuda grass has just been so crazy, as I said, so I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with that. But let's go ahead and take a quick spin around the garden. I will update you on a few things, and then just like with the garlic bed, I will talk about what jobs I'm doing and what I'm gonna be planting right now in mid-September. So let's go. Let's just do a quick scan of the garden. You can see I've got sorghum here that needs to be harvested. I spent so much time last year harvesting sorghum and processing it into syrup. I have video footage and I can compile that if that would be helpful. Let me know what you think about that. Most of the amaranth has shriveled, so I need to collect some seed from that and let it stand for a bit longer for the birds. But yeah, it's drooping and really falling over, so it's pretty much finished. But here's a great example of the Bermuda grass. This bed, you can't even tell that there is a bed there. There is a square 4x4 bed under there, and the Bermuda grass has just taken over. The peppers are still trying to hold their own in there, and they're doing okay. They've been producing some. Let's see if I can find a chili for you. These are the green Big Jim chilies, although he's not very big right now, but it will be pretty soon. I've harvested a lot of chilies off of there. Oh look, there's a little garden spider. It's a little crab spider right there. He's a good guy, so I'm gonna let him be because I want him to do his thing. But in this bed are sweet potatoes, believe it or not, and you guessed it, a big crop of Bermuda grass. That's generally the state of affairs in this garden right now. The Nichols heirloom tomatoes are actually doing really well. I have not had these undercover at all. They are just a smaller oval shaped. It's bigger than a cherry. Let me pick one. Bigger than a cherry. They're kind of a reddish pink color, but they have great flavor and they are real troopers in the heat. I haven't covered these a bit. So I've got some more tomato beds out here. I pruned those back pretty hard to see if they would rebound, and some of them actually have. And then I've also got a huge patch of tomatoes right there, and I'm just waiting to see what they do. Tomatoes will slow down in the heat. They don't like to set fruit or to ripen fruit when it's super hot, and that would be exactly how I would describe an Arizona summer, is super hot. So they have definitely slowed down. See if I can get closer. They've definitely slowed down, but they are starting to bloom again. So I thought that I would just leave them. They're supported by tomato baskets, and I'll see what they do. There are 8 of them in that bed. I know you can't see that very well. My long beds are doing really well too. Let's just take a little walk down those really quickly, and then we can talk about the jobs I'm gonna be doing. So I've got a nice crop of zinnias, of course. And in this front bed here, I've got more tomatoes that I'm hoping will begin to bloom. Oh yeah, I see some more blooms finally starting here. So maybe I'll get some more for fall, because we don't get our first frost until November for me, and sometimes December for Tucson proper. But I've got lots of okra. I just harvested a bunch of that this morning. But look at all of that Bermuda grass, y'all. I have got my work cut out for me because I'm gonna have to dig all of that out by hand. I do have some potatoes planted. So normally potatoes, people think, oh, you should do it when it's a little bit cooler. But these guys actually don't mind it at all. These are the Yukon Golds. So I get a little bit of a head start on those. So I do have some more peppers and tomatoes and okra in here. And this crop of zinnias that just planted themselves last year and won't quit. Just look how crazy this is. This is my second bed. All of these tomatoes are rebounding quite a bit, but you see here I've got an empty space in between these tomatoes over here and these tomatoes over here. So let's talk about that. So as a review, tomatoes can come in a couple of different types, determinate and indeterminate. Indeterminate tomatoes are the ones that you see around the garden that I have been pointing out that I said were rebounding and starting to bloom again. And indeterminate tomatoes will grow and continue growing until killed by frost. So as long as we don't have cold temperatures, they are just going to continue with blooming and producing tomatoes as the temperatures see fit. So if it is below below 90 degrees, usually tomatoes will perform really well. But determinate tomatoes are the ones that will grow to a specific size. Their tomato fruits will tend to ripen all at once, and then they're done. And so you can prune them back, you can wait, and they typically will not really be very productive anymore after they are finished with producing their crop of fruit. There are some that are considered like a semi-determinate, which will do a little bit of both, but for the most part I have determinate and indeterminate in my garden. So when you see the empty spaces, those are the spaces where I grew the determinate tomatoes. They have produced their crop and I have taken them out because they are finished, and I don't want to waste the water or the space on keeping them alive when they're not going to produce any more fruit for me. So I have already begun clearing out some of these beds in preparation for fall planting by removing some of those crops that are finished with their fruiting and are no longer of any use to me. So if you have any determinate tomatoes, any of the bush style tomatoes, then you can go ahead and start thinking about removing those now so that you can clear out your pots and your beds for fall. If you have indeterminate tomatoes that are continuing to grow and are starting to bloom, you can give them a little more time. Like I said, Tucson proper, first frost date is around the first week of December. For me, I am 3 or 4 weeks earlier than that, so I'm looking at the first week of November or so for the first possible frost. So I'm going to let these indeterminate tomatoes keep going and see if I can get any more fruits. That gives me a couple of months, so we'll see. I may have a lot of fried green tomatoes on my hands, but it's worth a try. So let's see what else we have to do in the garden right now. I've got a lot of these little, what I grew up calling coxcombs. They're a type of celosia. These are a variety that I got from Native Seeds, and their name I think means cat paw. I'll put the name on the screen because I'm not good with the pronunciation and I want to make sure I get those right. Some of them are really small, like this, with just like a single comb, but then other ones are huge. Look at this one. Look how beautiful that one is. The bees absolutely love these. The bumblebees have been all over them. If you would like to save seeds from these, they are really easy to tell when the seed is ready. When the seed is ready, you're going to see that the bottom of this flower turns kind of a cream or a brownish color. Can you see all those little dots in there? It's almost like there's dirt all over the bottom, but those are actually seeds. Let me see if I can get a little closer. So this flower is telling me that it is time to harvest if I want to save any of the seeds from it, which I do. So what I will do is I will just clip right here at the bottom. Oh, it just broke. All right, we can do it that way. I just would clip it off at the bottom where the stem meets the flower, and then I will lay that on a screen in the house because those birds will steal these seeds from you. They love them. And then as they dry, the seeds will kind of release and fall off. And as the flower head gets completely dry, you can also give it a little shake and you can get some of the seeds out that way. Now, there are some that have already done their thing and I missed the window on it. So let's look at those. For the most part, there are no little black dots, no seeds visible, and that's because I missed the window on this and they have all, for the most part, fallen down onto the ground. So I'm hoping that I will get some good volunteers this year. Oh, look who I see here. Mr. Pesky Grasshopper, keeping me company here. I really should be squishing you, but I think a bird might need some protein, so I'm gonna let you be. So I'm just gonna go along and harvest all of these flower heads as they come ready, and then I'll lay them on a screen in the house. Oh look, this one, it must have gotten blown down by a storm. So I'll check those too and see if there are any seeds on those that I can save. The Tithonia, or Mexican sunflower, is still going at it. These are really, really pretty during the summertime. I could save seeds from this if I wanted to as well. I think I have enough seeds still from last year. Once the flower dries, it produces this little seed head. This is very prickly. I would probably get my clippers and some gloves and clip these off, and then I would just crush them later on and pick some of the seeds out, because those will definitely stab your fingertips and they hurt pretty bad. This plant is just full of seed heads. So I'm gonna have to come out and harvest those. Who knows, maybe you'll see those on my website very soon too. So the amaranth that was a beautiful bright red, there's one that's still just slightly red behind it, but they were really, really vibrant early in the season. If I have video, I'll show you. But now it's very brown and the birds have been picking at it quite a bit. Let me see if I can show you what the seeds look like. You just kind of rub on the dried flowers like this, and once you do that, you will find some dark seeds there. And I can just pick through that. I could put it in a jar and then sprinkle it later. But yeah, those are the seeds for those. I'm gonna leave some for the birds, and then I will harvest some for myself too. This is the Oakite Amaranth from Native Seed Search. If you'd like to support their good work, you could get on their website and order it. They have local pickup and also mail delivery. All right, so back here is pretty sad. The tomatoes that were growing on this side finished their thing and they decided to shrivel and die. So that was interesting. And then I've got some more on this side. I've got some squash here and a lot of Bermuda grass. So it is a huge jungle back here. And I'm gonna have my work cut out for me over the next couple weeks on that. But these tomatoes are starting to rebound a bit as well, so I'm gonna leave those in. These I will just clear out, and then I'm gonna top this with compost too, after I get that Bermuda grass out of there, because there's a lot of it in that bed. Last year I had the most beautiful, most enormous patch of Arizona poppies. That's what these are. And I thought for sure, as I let the seed heads dry on the plants, that I would have a huge patch again this year that would just self-seed, but we did not get the winter rains like we had the year before, and my bluebells and my Arizona poppies just did not come back as much as I would have hoped they would. But there is always next year. I have some video footage of these from last year, and I could not believe the variety of bees and wasps that were on them. It was amazing. All right, do you all recognize this space? This is or was my stock tank garden. Believe it or not, underneath the tomatoes, these were the Juliettes, and the tomatillos, these were the Toma Verdes. There is a circular shaped stock tank. You can kind of see it peeking out right there. So I'm gonna have to go through and harvest a bunch and either prune them back or just clear them out altogether. So there are some hard decisions to be made. But look what an absolute crazy mess that is. Same with these over here. These tomatoes and things have overtaken that. I cut back the Lozano tomatoes. These are an F1 hybrid, but I wasn't sure if they would actually come back or not, but they have, and they have a ton of blooms on them now. So I may get a second crop of those. My eggplants that I had, my patio babies, I cut those back really hard too, and they have put on a lot of new growth and they've got a lot of blooms, so I'm hoping that I will get a second crop out of those too. I planted all of these marigolds in here in hopes that they would treat my nematode problem, and I'm hoping that they did. The pollinators really, really appreciated them. I do know that. And they are producing a lot of seed for me. So I'm going to be collecting this seed too and saving that for next year. These are a new variety of marigold for me this year. I will put the variety on the screen, and because I have to dig up the tag, it's down in the middle of there. So let me get that for you. Oh, I had to move into the shade. It is so hot today. So the Lozano tomato that is growing in my stock tank on my patio here is the cherry tomato that I talked about a lot this summer. It is a larger size cherry tomato. It's red and it's got that classic cherry tomato flavor, and it is really, really good, and it produces so many tomatoes. I got pounds of tomatoes off of those 4 plants that are in the stock tank. So I decided that I was going to try to prune those back really hard. I put a shade cloth back over them just to kind of shelter them so they didn't get too stressed out, because I did do that in the heat of the summer, and they came back. So let me explain the concept of pruning your tomato plants in the summer. In southern Arizona, you have two opportunities to plant tomatoes. You can plant your seeds in December to plant out in February, and then you can plant more seeds in July to plant out in August with the monsoon season and the monsoon storms that hopefully will come. And so we get two opportunities. So I decided this year, rather than start a second set of seeds, since I had so much travel and things going on, that I was just going to try to prune back some of my tomatoes and my eggplants really hard, and then I covered them with a little bit of shade cloth as they recovered. I did this in mid-August, so it's been about a month, and most of them are showing a lot of new growth, just like the Lozano tomatoes and the patio babies that I showed you a few minutes ago, and they are now covered in new blooms. My theory was that since I already had large tomato plants growing in the garden, if I prune those back hard and then cover them with a bit of shade cloth so that they didn't get too stressed out from the heat in mid-August, that those plants would have much more robust and established root systems, and that rather than planting out a seedling that is going to have to busy itself and put energy into developing a new root system and a new plant out above ground, that maybe my older plants would just come to fruit much faster. And so I cut them back hard, I gave them a bit of shelter and a little extra TLC, and now they are rebounding very quickly and they are covered in blooms. And so I'm thinking that my theory was correct and that I will get a nice heavy crop of fruit a second time before the frost comes. So if you are thinking about starting seeds in July or worrying that maybe you don't have the time or the facilities for that, if you have an indeterminate tomato plant, one that will continue growing through until it's frost killed, then you could try cutting it back in the second or third week of August just to see how it does, and it may actually produce a second crop of fruit for you much more quickly than a seedling plant would do. So try that out. I have tried that for eggplants and for tomatoes alike, and both of them do really well. I have not tried that with my peppers yet this season, although I have tried it in other seasons and they've done really well. I've actually also carefully dug up certain pepper plants and tried to keep their root systems as intact as I could, and put them in pots and stuck them underneath lights in my house and overwintered them, and then brought them back out in the spring, and that has also worked pretty well too. Just as a review, you can be clearing out certain beds, topping them with compost, keeping the water on, and waiting for the cooler season to come so that you are ready to plant either seeds or seedlings. You can also be planning out what you're going to be planting in those beds if you haven't already, so that you can be more efficient with ordering seeds and getting ready for when the temperatures cool down and it's go time. If you haven't already ordered garlic, that is coming up around October or so that you can be planting it. So if you haven't ordered your garlic seed yet, I would definitely get on that. A lot of companies will sell out fairly quickly. So I like Keen Garlic Farm for my garlic, so I will put a link for them down below. I also love ordering onion starts from Dixondale Farm. They don't have those up for sale yet. They're not available yet. It's usually around November or so when their onions and their leek start becoming available on their website. I will put the link to their website down below too. I love ordering their starts. So those are the little baby onion plants. So I find that the sets, the ones that look like little onion bulbs that come in the little bag, those tend to bolt really badly for me here in southern Arizona. So I don't use onion sets. And in the past, I always started my onion seeds way ahead of time, but I found that Dixondale Farms has such great selection of onions and leeks, and they send you the little bundle of baby plants, and then you can just stick them in the ground, and they've done a lot of that hard work for you of starting the seeds and maintaining the seeds until it's time to set them out. So I am just sold on that. I don't know if I'm ever going to go back. I don't know. Maybe I will, because there are always new varieties to try, so I probably will. I'll eat my words, I'm sure, at one point or another. Otherwise, it is just weeding and seed saving and just sitting back and getting ready for the new fall season. A lot of people say that they love gardening in the fall more than they love gardening in the summertime here in southern Arizona, just because it's a lot easier on the gardener and it's a lot easier on the plants. It's not as hot and you get some of the winter rains, but it's just generally cooler and the watering is a lot more efficient, so you're not spending as much on your water. So So if you're on the fence about whether or not you want to start a garden and you're feeling a little bit, I don't know, intimidated about whether or not you know how to do it or whether or not you really want to do it, I think even if you just put out one raised bed or a couple of pots or something just to start slowly, I would highly recommend it in the fall, because that is the easiest time of year to garden here in southern Arizona. I have made a little checklist for fall. I've got that available on my website for free download if you're interested in getting a PDF just to keep you on track. So I will put the link for that down below too. So the description box this time is going to have a lot of goodies for you just to keep you on track and to get you all your supplies that you need from great reputable companies that I believe in. I am so excited about sharing this upcoming gardening season with you. Welcome back to the garden. I am so happy to be back too. I hope you all have had a really good ending to your summer and that you're at least getting a few sprinkles of rain wherever you are. I am Kara from So Arizona. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy gardening.